What's up Stitches, my name is Michael and welcome to or back to my channel. In this video we're going to be finishing off knitting the Harry Styles cardigan, so if you like this video do please give it a like, and if you want to see more content from me let me know what you want to see from me in the comments down below, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my uploads. If you haven't seen my last video I would suggest going and checking that out. That shows you how to knit each of the squares and how I constructed the back piece. In this video I'm going to show you guys a bit more about how to do the mattress stitch and just generally how the rest of the cardigan is made. I've got pictures of this all over my Instagram, so if you want to check me out over there it's @SmichaelGoesKnitting. All of the links to the pattern, to different resources, to my socials will all be down in the description. If you have any questions about this pattern or about anything in general to do with knitting then leave them in the comments down below and I answer every comment. And I'm happy to help you guys. With all of that being said, let's get into the video. So now I'm making a start on the front panels. There are 6 front panels in total, each with some shaping around the neck and shoulders, so I just need to knit that again. Again, it's 4 squares high, so that's what I'm doing right now. I showed you in my last video how I knit each of the squares, so if you want to see that, head on over to my first video. Otherwise, I'm just going to move on because you guys know what it looks like to knit these squares. I've now finished 2 panels of the front half of the left-hand side of the cardigan. I live streamed that on YouTube, so if you want to check that out, please do. I've stopped the timer and I have 18 hours, 24 minutes and 57 seconds left to do 4 more panels for the front, the sleeves, the collar, and the cups for the bottom of the cardigan and the sleeves. I don't know how achievable that is, seeing as it does take me a while to sew the panels together. We'll have to see how it all goes. I'm not sure if I'll get it done in 36 hours, but we will see. Hopefully I can knuckle down and focus a bit more. I just did a live stream of me knitting, and that always makes me knit a bit slower, so hopefully I can do it, maybe. So what I decided to do to try and speed up my knitting is I did the 25-minute rule. So what you do is you set a timer for 25 minutes. For those 25 minutes you focus on one thing and then you take a 5-minute break and then you go back to it. So that's what I tried to do to kind of get my focus and speed up my knitting a little bit. This method was actually really helpful in getting me to work harder and get more done on the cardigan, and it also made me feel like I was doing more in that time rather than doing it whilst listening to podcasts or watching TV, so it definitely helped with my productivity. My average time for knitting these squares whilst focusing was actually 25 minutes, so I managed to shave off 5 minutes a square on focusing like this, so it's definitely something I would recommend if you need to get a project done really quickly. However, I did find that it made me very tired after knitting. Moving on to the shaping, I didn't discuss in my last video how we shaped it, but as you can see here there's some slight shaping for the shoulder. I've put on screen the directions on how to shape the shoulders, so feel free to pause here to have a look. There is also shoulder shaping on the back. There is also shaping on the neckline on the front panels, so I've put on screen again how you knit them, so feel free to pause right here. So this weekend I'm going on a long trip and I'm going to be the passenger in a car for probably 5 hours each way. So I'm going to attempt to do knitting in the car. Obviously it's going to be difficult to see how long I knit for because there's going to be different things in the car, like I'll have to sort out the radio and all of that fun stuff, stopping off, so it's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try and see how much I can knit on those 2 car journeys. Hopefully I'm going to try and finish, or like nearly finish the sleeves, so we can see how that goes. I don't really have a breakdown of how many hours I have left on this project. I have it all written down in a notebook and I'll figure that all out at the end. I think putting pressure on myself to do it in 36 hours is a bit much at the moment, so I'm just going to try and do it as quickly as I possibly can, and then we'll crunch the numbers at the end and see if I've done it. I'm not really going to have any shots of me knitting in the car because obviously it's a very compact space, it'll be difficult to film, so I'll see you guys after the trip. So I'm back from my weekend away. I got lots of knitting done in the car. I haven't finished the cardigan yet. There's still quite a lot to do, but I got a good chunk of knitting done in those 10 hours. So I'll show you guys what I've managed to achieve. I'm not going to tell you until the end whether or not I've achieved my time limit. I'm going to stop talking about times now so you can find out at the end of the video whether or not I achieved what I was looking for. So now I've finished knitting all of the sleeves. I've got to sew them together and then sew them onto the body. In my first video, I didn't really show you how I sewed things, and that's because I was being very sulky and I didn't want to because I hate sewing. But I think it would add value to you guys if I showed you how I do it. So here's what I do. I don't think I mentioned this before, but when you're sewing the patches together, you want to use your red Aran yarn. So what you want to do is measure out the length of the piece that you're going to be sewing together. And then what I do is I kind of add a bit extra on each side and then add even more so just to be safe rather than sorry. Then you want to thread the needle and you're ready to get going. So with right sides together facing you, you want to start picking up stitches at the edge of the work. Each of these have different stitch patterns, so it's difficult to get a consistent way of doing it. So what I do is with the moss stitch, the garter stitch and the double moss stitch, I pick up the little bars at the side, and with the stockinette stitch and the jersey slip stitch, I kind of pick up bars between the little V's. I hope that makes sense. Then I just go through and pull it taut. I make sure not to pull it too tight just because otherwise you get a very rigid seam and it doesn't stretch as well as the other pieces of fabric do, so you want to make sure that it can still stretch a little bit. This is quite a difficult thing to film, but you just want to try and seam them together where it makes sense and try and make sure that the seams aren't seen too much. Now I have sewn all the panels together, you will see that it's looking more like a cardigan, and you can see I am loving it. Obviously there's still a lot to go with the cuffs and the bottom of the cardigan, but so far it's looking pretty good, and as you can probably tell from all my smiling and dancing and moving around that I am very happy with how it turned out. So now that that's all sewn together, we can start adding the cuffs and the ribbing at the bottom and the collar. So I'm going to start with the ribbing at the bottom, and I'm not going to knit it the same way they advise in the pattern. In the pattern they advise that you knit them separately and then sew them together, but as aforementioned, I hate sewing. So I'm going to pick up the stitches along the bottom of the cardigan and knit it that way. To knit the ribbing, you're going to need your red Aran yarn and your 4mm needles. I don't think I showed you my Aran yarn in the last video because I forgot. But you need Aran yarn rather than super chunky or chunky. To start off, I simply tied the end of the Aran yarn to one of the ends that needs weaving in at the bottom of the square, just to secure it, and you know, they'll be weaved in later, so it doesn't really matter how that looks particularly. So what I'm doing is I'm holding the Aran yarn to the back of my work, and then I'm putting the needle through the holes in the cast on edge, so the gaps between the stitches, and I am picking up the red Aran yarn from the back and bringing it to the front so I have stitches on the needles. I'm going to continue to do this around the bottom of the cardigan, so that's 12 squares in total, so I'm going to pick all of those stitches up and then do that also for the cuffs and the collar as well. This is my solution to the problem of hating seaming up different panels together, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue to do that all the way around. Now we're on to the 2x2 ribbing, which is knit 2, purl 2. I've done a previous video on how to do the knit stitch and the purl stitch, so check that out if you haven't already. We need this to be 7 centimeters long, so you just want to continue knit 2, purl 2, repeating that until it gets to 7 centimeters, and then I cast off the same way I did with the other squares. I also did this for the cuffs, and they also needed to be 7 centimeters long, but instead I knit those in the round. Now that we've done all that, we're ready to do our buttonholes and button band. So what you're going to need is your blue yarn and your 5mm needles. This one I am going to knit separately and sew up because it's probably just easier for me to do it that way and follow the pattern properly rather than trying to figure out how to rotate buttonholes. So I'll show you guys what I did. So I did actually film doing the button band and the buttonholes, but for some reason my camera didn't like them. They were corrupted, so I can't put them in here. So here's a bit of a final reveal, and I'll talk a bit more about it in the outro. And so there we have it, the finished Harry Styles cardigan. Apologies for the loss of footage for doing these blue things. I will put on screen right now the repeating pattern. It's basically the reverse honey stitch but not staggered. I don't know if that makes any sense. But yeah, I love how it's turned out. I love the balloon sleeves. I don't think the pattern called for balloon sleeves, but what I did is I picked up every stitch along the edge of the sleeve. Then I reduced it by 0.25, and yeah, it's got this nice balloon effect. So I like my cuffs a bit more snug to my wrist. And then we have the collar, which needs blocking, I think, because it needs to be stretched out a bit more, but I'm also very happy with how that has come out. And obviously we have the band at the bottom. Again, I think I'm going to block that so it looks a bit more stretched out and more flat, so it's not as scrunched at the back. I'm so happy with it. I don't know if you guys can tell. I would say from completing this pattern, it is beginner friendly. I think some of the wording can be quite confusing, but the pattern is for free, so I can't complain too much. It's very big. It's very big. It's very oversized on me. I love it. I love it so much. So the question on everyone's lips: did she do it in 36 hours? You guys probably guessed that I didn't. I absolutely didn't. I didn't pass this challenge that I set myself, so I don't really know if that matters too much. But I didn't do it in 36 hours. I actually did it in 44 hours and 53 minutes. So yeah, not too much. I definitely know it's because I knit while live streaming, I knit in the car, and just generally it takes a lot longer while I'm distracted to knit. Another reason why I think it took a lot longer is because I am terrible at seaming things together, which plays into why I hate it so much. So maybe if I were to knit this again, I may try and knit it all in one. So I would knit each of the bottom squares, which is like 12 squares wide, and then go up and then leave gaps for the armholes and do it that way. I think that's probably my best bet if I wanted to knit it a lot quicker. And as I've mentioned, I'm not the fastest of knitters, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to speed up my knitting over the next few weeks. If you want a video on how I plan to achieve that, then let me know in the comments down below and like this video. If this video gets 50 likes, then I will do a video on how to increase your knitting speed. So although the challenge was a fail, I am not upset about it. I'm not mad. I think the cardigan's beautiful and I'm gonna wear it for the rest of my life. So there's not too much to worry about there. So in total, the materials used to make this beautiful cardigan is £30.98. In my first video, I showed you exactly what yarn I used, but it totaled £30.98 for all of the materials for this. That includes the Aran yarn, which I actually had already, but I included that anyway, just in case you guys wanted to know. So, you know, £30 for something that was over £1,000 online to buy is very much worth it. And even if you charged my time at a minimum wage, it would still be way less than it is online. So if you are loving this cardigan and you really want it, I would encourage you to just give it a go. There's so many people who've recreated it on YouTube. I'm sure there's someone who will teach it to you in a way that you can do it. And even if you're a complete beginner, I've got videos on how to knit, how to purl, and that's basically all you need bar knit one below. And I've explained that in my first video, so you can do this. If you've enjoyed this type of video, then I have done another video where I recreated an iconic dress that Ariana Grande wore. And if you have any ideas on what I should recreate next, put it in the comments section down below. Also subscribe so you don't miss any of my uploads, but also so we can hang out more. You can see my videos, we can be friends. Also follow me on Instagram at @SmichaelGoesKnitting. Generally, if I have any questions or any themes that I want to bring into a video, I ask questions over on my Instagram, so if you want to get involved with any of the videos, then that's the best way to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's it for me for this week. Stay wholesome and happy knitting.